Hi, and welcome back to Beans and Bezels. FineWatchesBerlin is a relatively new German microbrand started by father-daughter duo based in Germany. This is going to be a longer than usual review, so I don't want to spend too much time introducing the brand. Instead, I'll leave two links to Mike Stufler's interview with this dynamic duo, as well as his own opinions of the brand. A few things I'd like to note though are that they are very transparent regarding their manufacturing location and indicate that this watch is manufactured and assembled in China. The Made in Germany tag is a very loosely defined label anyway, so I respect their decision to print designed in Germany instead. And as you will see, they have very strict quality control standards and the finishing is excellent. And roughly $60 from every sale is donated to Hands with Hands to help developing communities in Nepal. This watch is the Teufelsberg number 4 and retails at roughly $600 and is named after the Teufelsberg hill in Germany. I urge you to read about this, and it has a very interesting backstory. Let's check it out. The case measures 39.75 millimeters in diameter, 49 millimeters from lug to lug, and 11.25 millimeters tall. The case is entirely polished and has a simple circular design, similar to Bauhaus style watches from Stowa and Nomos. From above, the lugs have a narrow and straight design, common to watches in this design genre, but the sides angle down towards the wrist. The lug holes are capped with blued screws and the lug width is 20 millimeters. You have the brand's name engraved on the side of the watch. I don't always like engraved cases, but this doesn't look obnoxious at all, and I think it works. There is a 5.75mm diameter crown at the 3 o'clock position that is plated with the same rose gold color as the indices and hands. The top of the crown has the brand's eccentric circle insignia in blue and white. The crown is very well designed, and I didn't notice any crown or stem wobble either. Flipping it over, you have an exhibition style case back that is attached to the case by means of 6 screws. The exhibition window is also made of sapphire crystal, and the watch is rated for up to 50 meters of water resistance. The Teufelsberg is offered in 4 different dial configurations. They sent me the Teufelsberg Rosé number 4, which has rose gold indices, hands, and branding. This watch does bear resemblance to Bauhaus style watches from Stowa and Nomos, but does not follow the serious, symmetrical, and rigid design languages of the above watches. Instead, it feels like a joyful, quirky, and positively eccentric improvisation of the Bauhaus rulebook. The design feels like a constant contradiction to the fundamental design principles, but also just seems to work. The base of the dial has a metallic satin finish, and the color comes across as a silvery off-white. There is a thin blue border that encloses the minute track. The minute markers are small rose gold colored ticks. You then have circular red markers for every increment of 5 that are filled with lume. You don't expect to see a bold color like red on a watch that is already taking a risk with so many rose gold elements, but they did it anyway, and I think it looks pretty cool. You then have a combination of applied stick indices and Arabic numerals for the hour markers. The finishing on these is excellent, and the indices play with light beautifully. The brand's initials are applied in a similar manner under the 12 o'clock index. For strict minimal design, even this can be considered too much, but FWB takes it one step further and has its brand name next to the 9 o'clock as well. Again, this design just appears to be their way of rebelling against traditional design norms. And to be completely honest, when Mike Stufler shared images of this watch on What You Seek a year ago, I was shocked by the design too. But since that first reaction, I've come to actually appreciate it for what it is, a design that just refuses to conform. And the last act of defiance is the small second subdial. To balance out the already asymmetric dial layout, I would have expected or hoped for them to at least place the subdial at the 3 o'clock position or the 6 o'clock position. But nope, the recessed subdial is located at 4:30 and makes bold use of blue, red, and rose gold. Again, these bold colors might throw you off if you're used to watches like Nomos, Junghans, and Stowa, but the vivid colors strongly resemble those that are found at the Bauhaus school. I have no education in design, neither do I have artistic insight, but this doesn't seem like a coincidence to me. The hour and minute hands are fairly simple, rose gold in color and filled with lume. The finishing on the hands is great, and I have no complaints here. You may or may not like the overall design, and I think that's okay, but it's hard to argue with the quality of finishing seen on the dial. They've done a great job ensuring strict quality control. This watch has strong dress watch DNA, so I wouldn't have been disappointed if it lacked lume entirely. But that isn't the case here, and the circular dot markers and the 2 primary hands are lumed. The lume design is great, and it's a pleasure to look at. The hands are very generously lumed with C3 super lumen over. The circular dot markers are less bright because of the limited surface area, but it's sufficient for about an hour or so in the dark. Since this isn't a sports watch or tool watch, I think this is acceptable. This watch uses a miyota 8218 movement. This is my first experience with this particular movement, and you don't see them too often either. This movement has a small seconds hand at the 4:30 position and has a date mechanism at the 3 o'clock. The result is a ghost date position on this watch, which to be fair is not uncommon for watches under $1,000. This movement has been modified to include blue screws and a branded rotor, which is done in rose gold to match the dial. I think this is one of the best decorated Miyota H series I've seen to date, so I'll definitely give them credit here. The movement is very clean and indicates good quality control. But we need to talk about the movement itself. At roughly $600, the movement falls a bit short in the overall package. If you ignore the value being delivered everywhere else and look at it as a $600 watch with a Miyota 8 series movement, it becomes difficult to digest. A Miyota 9 series would have been more appropriate here, or a standard ETA or Solita to move the movement origin closer to home in Berlin. I logged the accuracy of this watch over a 2-day period and observed roughly minus 23 seconds per day. Since this watch had a very unpleasant journey reaching me from Berlin, I won't entirely blame the movement for this performance. But even by Miyota's flexible standards for this watch, it is a bit out of spec, and I will look at having it regulated soon. The 39.75mm diameter case and 49mm lug-to-lug width are quite comfortable on my 6¼ wrist. Don't let the 49mm lug-to-lug width scare you. The slender and long lugs are barely noticeable on the wrist, and this watch does not feel like a typical 49mm lug-to-lug width diver. The lugs also bend towards the wrist to further reduce the perceived length. The case is 11.25mm tall, and the case back protrudes out of the case by about 1.5mm. But the entire weight of 75 grams is very well balanced, and the watch sits low on the wrist. Each watch is shipped with 2 leather straps, and I received a dark brown and black one with the Teufelsberg number 4. The black strap that was included with this watch is one of the most comfortable and well-made straps that I've come across. If it didn't have the FWB name and logo near the ends, I would have definitely used it on my other watches too. Putting aside the slightly underwhelming movement, I wouldn't be surprised if people had very polarizing opinions regarding the design. I don't think this watch was made for everybody. I don't think the average watch enthusiast was even kept in mind while designing the watch, the same way an artist doesn't create based on need. And for that fact, FWB have definitely earned my respect. But now let's talk about the price again. At $600, this watch feels a bit too expensive for me, primarily because of the choice of movement. But I don't want to discount the fact that their finishing is excellent, their straps are extremely well made, and their hearts are in the right place. They donate roughly $60 from each purchase to Hands with Hands, an organization that helps communities in need in Nepal. And those that know me personally will know why I can appreciate this. But for the average watch enthusiast who is chasing his or her next microbrand watch, I think this price will be a bit difficult to come to terms with. But I also believe that there will be a minority of watch and design enthusiasts that will look at this watch and fall in love with it. And to someone who can appreciate the design, this watch will be an easy one to justify purchasing. Similar to the way Unimatic sells their Seiko NH35 equipped watches for $600 and William Wood theirs for around $800 to $900. As always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to read the full length review in the link below.